So we met in December 1997, and then in 98 we started working together, and by 99 we had our first exhibition here, which is pretty quick moving.
You know, Adrian+Shane in this space, there's a lot of history to it. We've launched our website here. We've had 2 or 3 solo exhibitions. We've done, you know, multiple group shows. So it kind of feels it's a very special space for us. We feel that this exhibition is a reinvention or a new start of who we are as people and artists. So it's kind of nice to actually have it back in this space to actually go, well, this is where we started and this is where we're starting from again.
Actually, even our suits, the red suits that we're wearing, we were looking at old photos from our first exhibition as well, and we're wearing similar. We're wearing red as well then, so these suits are kind of like referencing back to back then.
And then we did some promo photos, and I forgot to bring my shoes, so we've got 1 shoe each. I'm wearing one of
That's why we have one bare foot and one shoe in our photos.
But we actually have shoes today, which is great. We'd spent 5 years trying to have a continuity between who we are as people, you know, your health, your lifestyle, and then to be able to draw into it and tap into it as inspiration. I'm big into self-help. It's always something that I've been very interested in. We use that as the inspiration behind the work. And it was more, it's not serious. We don't really have 17 ways to a better you. There is a fun element, there is humor, there's a darkness to the work, because it has become an industry. Self-help and, you know, advertising, telling people no, you can be happy by having products and a certain way of living, and it has made people unhappier from like something that they can't attain. There's an aspiration there of a lifestyle that people can never get to, because there's always something more. There's always another product to have a better version of something, and that's what we were looking at. It was like creating a better version of yourself without the product.
The technique that we used for most of the pieces is like a toner transfer thing that we discovered online, where you print out images on your laser printer and you glue them on like face down onto your board, and then once they dry, you can wash all the paper off and you're just left with the ink from the toner, which is like a new technique that we never used before. So then once you do that, then you can screen print or paint or whatever on top. We use crayons and whatever we fancied.
And with the technique as well, when you have to wash away the actual paper to reveal the image.
Yeah.
It leaves a distressed image, and it's just by chance what it's going to look like. It can wash away parts of it. Faces can come off. You don't know what you're going to be left with. But that kind of distressed image has a vintage quality to it as well. And we quite like that, having something that does look back and ties in with the 40s, the 50s vintage feel.
These pieces were originally made as studies. They were never intended to actually be exhibited as part of the show. We did about 10 of them and realized they actually looked quite good and they could be part of the show and they would look good framed. So we did about 30 altogether, and we edited that down to about 20. And the original plan was to hang them in a big grid on the wall, but our curator, Dorothy Smith, thought that that would be too much. And so she separated them into groups.
To tell a story.
To tell a story.
Yeah, she thought that just the blockiness of it would be just a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
And there was a lot going on, a lot of information. So she created little groups of the pieces and then told the story, which works so much better.
These are like ads from the 40s and 50s, looking on to what came after, like the 60s, 70s, 80s. So this is like the big boom. Sometimes a line would come to mind that we thought would work well in a piece, and we just like scribble it down. We have like a list of loads of ridiculous lines, or if you're listening to a song or something, and sometimes you'll hear a line.
Of the sketchbook, we did it over a month. Before we started doing any of the work, even the studies, we were referencing a lot of the Life magazines and vintage magazines, found imagery, So we spent a month working on the book itself, just putting ideas in, and having a vision board of what the style of the exhibition was going to be. And part of it was, so we had a direction that if we were losing focus of where we were going or needed inspiration, it became like a map almost that we could go back and reference and go, well, this is what we're doing, this is the look. And it really helped in terms of creating a reference for the actual look of the exhibition.
We started working on a piece for a separate show. It was for a group show. So this is the mushroomy piece. So we started working on this, and when we had this finished, we thought actually this style or this technique would work really well.
It was very powerful
for the 17 Ways exhibition.
Yeah.
When we start working together, originally it would have been, we wouldn't really have had a plan. So we would have just been, we used to have a sketch pad and we would swap back and forth. So Shane would do a bit of work on an image and I would just add, so it was more random. So there was no story and no structure to it. It was just like working.
Organic in terms of how we were making something.
Yeah.
It was like you said, it wasn't planned.
For years, and afterwards we got into like stenciling and stuff. So spray paint and stenciling, like kind of a street art kind of vibe. But then again, there wasn't really, it was just kind of images that we liked. So we had exhibitions and it was just kind of like the exhibition would have been just made of images that we liked, kind of random, but there was no connection with them all.
No.
There's no real proper theme. Whereas I think with this show, there's actually a proper theme, and we spent a long time working on it and coming up with it and talking about it. And even the techniques that we use, it's different to anything we've done before. So I think of all the exhibitions we've ever had, this is the one that we're most happy with.